Thank you, Zach. Wow. I'm Mark McGinnis, and I'm very happy to be among you. Let us take a moment and locate ourselves. When I saw that from outer space, shortly before the Santa Barbara oil spill in January 1969, I fell in love. I fell in love, and I knew who I was, and I knew my purpose, all in a flash. I am an earthling. Earthling. And I love Earth, my home. Shortly after that, I got a call from Pete McCloskey, who was a congressman. And he said, Mark, have you heard about that oil spill in Santa Barbara? And I said, I read something about it, Pete. And he said, get down there right away. We're writing law back in Washington, and the oil spill has really sparked that. We're picking up on the work of Senator Henry M. Scoop Jackson, and we're going to have a National Environmental Policy Act, and it's going to pass, partially as a result of the response across the country to the news of what happened in Santa Barbara. So I said, yes, I'll do it. I came here and found GOO in organization, Santa Barbara Citizens for Environmental Defense, the founders of the Environmental Defense Center subsequently, in action, in formation. And I was accepted because I was here to serve the earth. And Pete said, Mark, among other things, you need to go to Santa Barbara because the word coming out of Santa Barbara on the first anniversary has got to be wider than get oil out. We have an opportunity to ignite a whole movement, a new movement, to pick up where the conservation movement brought us to and expand. And that's where we are today, 50 years later. We're about to do the same thing. We're about to expand again. So one of the things we did in Santa Barbara in response to the spill was to organize ourselves into what became the January 28th Committee. Subsequently, that morphed into the Community Environmental Council. We asked Professor Rod Nash, a brilliant young history professor and an expert in environmental history, particularly on the environmental ethics of Aldo Leopold, to write a declaration, and he did. And it's beautiful. The Santa Barbara Declaration of Environmental Rights. At the time, it was styled on Thomas Jefferson's words, and it had the beginning of all men. Subsequently, Rod agreed that the term should be changed, and it's officially now, all people. All people. But it was a stylistic thing. And what he meant to say was all of us. I'd like to ask you, before we do what I'll explain in a moment is going to be, to just take a moment and stretch, inside, outside, stretch. Yeah, oh. And look, and say to yourself or out loud, I am an earthling.
I am an earthling.
I am an earthling.
I am an earthling.
I love Earth.
I love Earth.
Love is an action verb. This is a call to action. This is a call to action. That's why we're here. Love is the action that is needed now. Nothing less will do. Hope is not something to have. Hope is something to do. Hope is an action verb. Idle hope is a toxin. It is a pollutant. beware of hope. It's time to come to center, come to our senses, come to that heart space, and recognize who we are. And who are we? We are earthlings. Earthlings. Above all, we are humble earthlings among the many other communities of life on this planet. We are not the masters of any of it. We are members of all of it. None of it belongs to us. We belong to all of it. Our call going forward is to work for a year together to come up with, on the 50th anniversary of the Declaration, which will be next year, another statement coming out of Santa Barbara. This time it will not be written by Rod Nash or any single individual. Rod Nash will be is invited to participate with us, but we are here today to give you a preview of what we have to say going forward and what the word out of Santa Barbara will be in 2020. One of our poet laureates and my dear friend, Sojourner Kincaid Roll, has prepared what she calls a found poem, and we'll proceed in accordance with her.
Thank you. First, do no harm. Do good.
We will infuse the law with love and behave ourselves accordingly.
We acknowledge the indigenous wisdom of countless generations of Shumish people in this place. And we commit ourselves to the indigenous values of reciprocity, of taking care of things, and making sure that we do a good thing. I'm going to look at my notes. We commit to ancient indigenous values of respect, generosity, reciprocity, and accountability within the human and non-human community, both seen and unseen.
Environmental and climate action must be rooted in all forms of social justice.
Indigenous justice and sovereignty.
Disability justice and gender justice. Racial justice and immigrant justice. Economic justice and ecological justice.
We must use and manage our resources responsibly and ensure that corporations and institutions are equally respectful to all.
We must ensure that all peoples have fair and equitable access to healthy food, clean air and water, healthy soil, and sustainable energy.
We must protect our marine resources, creating protected areas and strong fisheries. We must reduce our dependency on fossil fuels.
We must not compromise the future viability of the natural environment, human health, and ecological balance.
We must study both traditional indigenous ecological knowledge and Western environmental science.
We must promote practices that support ecological regeneration, regrowth, and peaceful coexistence with natural life support systems.
To help humans reach their rightful, humble place in our environment, we commit to supporting the environment.
With gratitude to those who came before us, we pledge to maintain a biodiverse community.
We stand together.
We stand together.
Together we pledge.
Together we pledge.
To work with purpose and integrity.
To work with purpose and integrity.
To ensure future generations
To ensure future generations
enjoy a clean and healthy planet.
enjoy a clean and healthy planet.
Thank you to all of you who just gave us that powerful reading of the new Santa Barbara Declaration of Environmental Rights preview. I'd like to ask you to remain on stage for a moment so that you can take a bow and wave as I read your names. Cosmali Lopez, Chumash Youth Leader. Art Cisneros, Chumash Elder. Amanda Pantoja and Cynthia Torres, UCSB Environmental Studies majors. Monique Limon, California State Assembly member. Das Williams, Santa Barbara County Board of Supervisors. And Lena Fackler, Galileo Martinez, Valentina Thomas, our elementary school students and members of Adams Ocean Guardian Ambassadors Program. Michelle Sevilla, UCSB grad and member of the Board of Directors of GOO. Mark McGinnis, environmentalist extraordinaire, environmental attorney, professor emeritus, UCSB. And the amazing playwright and one of our very own Santa Barbara Poet Laureates, Sojourner Kincaid Roll. Thank you all for your service and your leadership. And now, Monique Limon and Das Williams will close for us.
Thank you, everyone, for hanging in here. What I can tell you is that the best is yet to come, so we hope that you will continue to be here. But one of the reflections we have about today's gathering is not that it just brings us forward to think about the last 50 years, but what we're doing today is we're also reflecting on how we move forward in the next 50 years. This gathering, this opportunity is more than only bringing us together. It's about ensuring that we keep the momentum and the energy as a community, the community of Santa Barbara, as a state, because what we know is that as goes California, so does the rest of the country. And we have seen that in the number of policies that have moved forward to protect our environment. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for being part of the movement. Let's make sure that these last 50 years are the ground that have paved the way for the next 50 years to continue doing this work. And let's also ensure that our movement becomes a movement bigger than Santa Barbara, that becomes a movement of California, reflective of California, and that we make sure that we move our country forward. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Das Williams. I'm a county supervisor, and the county of Santa Barbara has traditionally been a place where we have land use battles all over oil. And my hope, and what I hope comes out of today, is that we won't be known for that in the next 50 years. That we will instead be known of being on the cutting edge of renewable energy and that transition to a clean energy. And we have a special talent, a gift, maybe here in Santa Barbara, of being able to translate tragedy, taking tragedy and translating that into conscious celebration. But I hope we will translate it into something much more. I hope you take this day and what it has instilled in your heart to power your activism and to power something else, to power a change in your lifestyle, a change in your choices. For the power of the oil companies is contingent upon our economic complicity. We give them the only thing they need for power, which is money. And we have the power. You have the power with the choices that you make, what you buy and what you don't buy, to every day buy less and buy not what they're selling you. You have the power to deny them that money, and you have the power to deny them the power they seek, and you will deny them that.